Good afternoon, everyone. I'm John Borrello, the mayor of Ellicottville, and welcome to our village. It's fun to have you here. Ellicottville is kind of a unique place. In the 1950 census, most of you don't remember that, I happened to be here at the time, we had more manufacturing jobs than any place in New York State per capita. The Chamber of Commerce used to hang their hat on that. And now we have we only have fewer than 100 manufacturing jobs, but we have hundreds, literally hundreds of hospitality jobs and jobs within our industry, which now, of course, is the tourism industry. So I'm very happy that Pete Kreinheder from Ellicottville Brew Company has hosted this event. Peter, thank you very much. I'm honored that the senator has chosen Ellicottville for this press conference, and I thank him. The first time that I met the senator, he was still in Chautauqua County, and we met at a small gathering in West Seneca. We sat next to one another, and one of the downstate assemblymen were here actually giving a talk about doing things together, and which the governor was pushing at that time. Since then, the senator has been very supportive of me, but more importantly, he's been very supportive of Ellicottville and this whole region. So we're very happy to have Senator Borrello representing us. We're very happy to have him here today, and I'd like to introduce him to you, Senator George Borrello. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. It's nice to have an audience at a press conference. This is great. Thank you all very much. I want to first of all thank you all for being here. This is a busy day here in Ellicottville. This is what we like to see. There's people here, many of them from out of the region. There's economic activity, and it's a beautiful sunny day. But it's not a sunny day for the folks that are trying to hire people to fill the jobs that we have here. New York State right now leads the nation in unemployment and the unemployment rate. And if I'm not mistaken, last time I looked, we were the second highest in the nation, only behind Hawaii. Yet I don't know a single, whether you're a restaurant owner, manufacturer, shopkeeper, that isn't looking for an employee right now. There are help wanted signs everywhere. Now, there are many factors involved in this, but the bottom line is one of the main factors is the fact that we are still paying people more on unemployment than they were making when they're working. And today, I want to be talking about my bill in the Senate, Senate Bill 6788, that will return these benefits to the normal level when it comes to the actual weekly rate of pay. This has been an issue that is brought to my attention by countless business owners, by folks that are concerned about being able to stay open. I've heard stories about restaurants that can't be open on weekend nights because they don't have staff. I've heard manufacturers that have canceled orders, that have turned away business because they can't fill the jobs that they have. And folks, these are not minimum wage jobs. We're talking about jobs that pay above the average salary in this region with benefits. We're talking about places like Wells Manufacturing in Dunkirk that is offering a $5,000 sign-on bonus for someone that has no experience. They will train you. They cannot fill the positions. New York State is already a very difficult place to do business. We are the least friendly business state in the nation. Now we're adding to that the fact that our workforce has been decimated first by the pandemic and now by the actions of government. Our job is not to pay people to not work. Our job should be to remove the barriers that we have to working, and that's really what this is about. New York State has been sitting on over $500 million. That's a billion with a B that they have yet to distribute for things like childcare, one of the biggest barriers that people have to working. We have issues with transportation. We have money for workforce development that hasn't been mobilized. We have support for people, for tenants and landlords that is yet to be mobilized. New York State has billions of dollars sitting somewhere that have not been mobilized to get this economy back to work. And that is really what we're facing here. I don't have an issue with people that are collecting unemployment that need it. The issue is with the system that we've put in place that is enslaving people rather than inspiring people. We should be talking about lifting people up, helping them lift themselves up, giving themselves the dignity of having a job that will be able to help them care for themselves and their family. We should be telling our businesses, we don't want you to leave because you can't find workers. We want you to stay here. We want your families that you support to stay here. And continuing on this road of incentivizing people to not work is only going to make New York's economic recovery longer and more painful and potentially never actually happen. So those are kind of my initial opening statements, but I think most of you know that I'm a business owner myself. My wife and I own and she operates several businesses up in northern Chautauqua County along Lake Erie. We are personally experiencing this issue. Employees that we've had for years that have said, sorry, give me a call after the unemployment benefits are up, and then maybe we'll come back to work. I don't blame those folks. I blame the system in place. I blame the politicians that are so out of touch with reality and that haven't obviously understood even the basics of economics to understand that this is going to be harmful long-term to our economy. It's our responsibility. But in addition to myself, I have some other folks here that will talk about this, business owners, including the owner of this establishment. But first, I'd like to welcome to the podium my friend and colleague and the senator next door, Senator Tom O'Mara from the 58th Senate District.
Thank you. Thank you, George. It's a pleasure to be here in Ellicottville today. This is my first time here in the summertime. I've only been here in the winter, but I love it here. And I come from the district just to the east of George's district. So I encompass Steuben County, Chemung County, Yates County, Schuyler County, and Tompkins County, the area from Hornell to Ithaca. We're experiencing the same issues across the southern tier as George just talked about here. We need to react quicker in state government to get our workforce back on the job and not sitting home continuing to collect unemployment when there are many, many good-paying jobs available out there, as George talked about. You know, my district includes the southern half of the Finger Lakes, another great tourism region in New York State. And those businesses there are struggling, as was described here by the mayor and by Senator Borrello. Despite the fact that last year the tourism industry in the Finger Lakes region really had a great year considering what was going on. In downtown Watkins Glen, the Watkins Glen Harbor Hotel had its best year ever since it had been open. And that's without having the major NASCAR event, week-long event there during that. These jobs have been needed and been available throughout this entire time. We need to make sure that when jobs are available and they're offered, that the individuals take those jobs and don't continue to sit home and receive over and above what our standard unemployment is in New York. Our economy is opening up again. As we can see here today, we're all around without masks on. It's time to get back to business as normal. It's time to get people back on the job. And I'm proud to be here with George today to help foster and push his legislation forward, as well as many other things in the state that we need to do to get people back on the job. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator O'Mara. And now I'd like to introduce one of the most amazing entrepreneurs that I've ever met in my existence, and someone who is responsible for not only this, but several other economic drivers here in this region, and that's the owner of Ellicottville Brewing Company, Mr. Peter Kreinheider.
Good afternoon. I just really want to talk on behalf of Ellicottville as a hospitality tourism center for the county and for our region. We went through last summer. It was a tremendous summer for everyone in town. We held our candle after COVID, after reopening last year. However, as we've noticed as the last 8 months have gone by, we steadily have lost employee after employee after employee after employee because the incentive not to work is real. Now, I understand it's not just about the free money. We do have real things of child daycare to address. But as the senators mentioned, there's monies out there that haven't even been touched to provide daycare. I understand that. My mother was a single mom with 3 boys. I get that part of it, and I know it's real. And the other part is we also ultimately lost a certain amount of people in the industry permanently. So people in our industry like to work. and they sought new, job positions, whether it's in insurance or it's in the auto industry, but people that were never going to get back. So we have a double whammy. We have one that, like, people that aren't going to return back to our industry, and then also this other carrot that, I think this needs to get altered. There are legitimate reasons, like the senator said. I'm full support of people that really need this, but I think we're doing a disservice of allowing people to stay home on the dole. And I think everyone out here that is working, you're all working today, and we're going to end up paying for that. And that's what I have to say. And I think we have to just maybe, I have an example of someone that we were going to hire. He had 45, 50 hours a week. And the person said, oh, no, I only want to work 2 hours or 2 days a week. And I'm like, well, no, we have full-time 45 hours a week. And he goes, no, I just want to stay home with my kids this summer. Now, as an employer, I'm like, that's just crazy. And I can't believe this is the mentality that we've allowed to precipitate. And it just, it just needs to be curbed a little bit right now. So, and it's also putting strain on the rest of the team. So there's some really good members in all of our establishments that instead of spreading the load over, we have 180 employees. Instead of spreading the load over the 212 we need, we're spreading it on the rest of everybody else, which isn't fair. And so, and now we're coming into our busiest season. Ellicottville is known to be a winter season. Ellicottville's hitting its peak season in stride in about 2 weeks. So these positions are open and available all the way from Hollymont, Holiday Valley, to all the restaurants in town. And I'm sure it stretches all the way up to Lewiston. So, pardon? Yeah, we could fill 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 12. Put a spatula in your hand, you're ready to go. Or on the one of the canning line or the bottling line or anything like that, right? But we have other jobs, we have welding jobs. We have other things that are going on that we just can't fill. So, but thank you for coming here today, and I appreciate, if anybody has any questions, I'll answer it later on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Peter. Next, from a manufacturing perspective, I'd like to invite up Bob Schmick. He's the general manager of Fibercell Packaging, and there you go.
Thanks, and I appreciate the opportunity. It goes without saying how challenging it's been, this whole pandemic's been for every small business. We considered ourselves very lucky because we were essential, and the reason we were essential is because a lot of the goods that we're packaging, we make green molded pulp packaging, and our packaging products are essential for down the line, plastics goods, right on up to bottle packs that are being used for reagents as part of the vaccine. Our core group stepped up and we got through it, and when the new year rolled around, the orders just doubled. We're extremely busy, and we have absolutely been unable to replace the people that we lost over the course of the period of time. We've done everything under the sun to try to get employees, and currently at this point we're actually offering and are giving, as of 2 weeks ago, a $2 an hour COVID bonus on top of every hour they work. So for every hour worked, they get a $2 bonus. Another thing is, because the workforce has shrunk, the competition has come up. So the big boys are able to steal what maybe the smaller businesses that can't afford, that don't have the margins that the big guys have, so they're stealing employees, which is why we put that $2 in place, was to hold our existing employees and perhaps look appealing to bring in other employees as well. So I would say we're down 25% on employees, 25% on employees, and I don't have a customer right now that's happy. We're running 24/7, and we're in our business, we're changing tools a lot to get everybody just a little bit, and we don't really have anybody satisfied. We've made an investment in another line that will be on in September, and to say the least, I'm concerned. I don't think the math in all this is rocket science, and there's absolutely a work shortage here, and small businesses are a major part of the engine that drive America, and as it should be. And I think it's, from my opinion, from a manufacturing point of view, it's time that the federal and state governments step up and become part of the solution instead of the problem. So I appreciate you listening. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. There's a great place not too far from here in Portville, New York, that's called Sprague's Maple Farm. And it's one of my favorite places to go. Not only are they great producers of maple products, they also have a fantastic restaurant there and some of the best pancakes that you'll ever have. And I'm proud to have here today Randy Sprague, the owner of Sprague's Maple Farm and Restaurant.
Thank you. It's exciting to be here today and take part as Senator Borrello introduces some much-needed legislation across the state of New York. My wife and I are co-owners of Sprague's Maple Farms, and we've been in business for over 20 years and have never seen the labor shortage that we're faced with today. Some days we come into work and we feel we're just one person away from not being able to continue our operation and keep our doors open. It's most distressful that at this time when New York State is just opening up, many businesses such as ours are forced to curtail their hours or maybe not even open at all again when we should be doing just the opposite. And it's very gratifying to see some attention finally being drawn to what we are facing today. Like the previous speakers here you've heard from today, we're in the same situation. It is just so difficult to add to our staff. Anytime we lose a person, it's just so detrimental to what we're able to continue to do. We have many plans to go forward, but at this time they're just on hold because, believe it or not, we just cannot staff any expansion or barely keep up with what we're trying to do today. And after everything we've been through over all these years, this is one of the toughest things as a business leader that we've have faced in our community. And of course, I speak not only from this region, but this, as you're probably all well aware, is statewide. It's a huge issue, and it's having a truly detrimental effect to the economy of our businesses region-wide and statewide as well. We're so appreciative to the gentleman behind us here and for bringing this to light, and certainly wish them the best taking this forward so it can hopefully alleviate some of this for all the businesses that are impacted by this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Randy. Thank you. And also like to invite up someone who's involved very intimately in what goes on here as far as economic development here in Cattaraugus County. And that is the Executive Director of the Cattaraugus County Industrial Development Agency, Corey Wichter.
Good afternoon. I'm Corey Wichter. I'm the Executive Director of the Cattaraugus County IDA. Welcome to Ellicottville. Thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here. When you do economic development in New York State, I do it with passion. I love this area. I have such an affinity. I would never want to move from this area. New York State was founded as just exactly as we see the beauty, the charm, the charisma. Our businesses are just being tarred and feathered, period. IDAs were created in the late 60s to help businesses succeed in a hard environment. We touch PA. Penelec kills us on power, rates, workforce, if you will. Now we're all in that. These people here, where the IDA has the absolute blessing to assist projects like Ellicottville Brewing, Holiday Valley, Hollymont, Fitzpatrick and Weller, FiberCell. It's just the most disheartening calls we get are from employers saying, I'm literally in a state of emergency without finding able bodies. When can we be rewarded? When can the state reward our workers for people showing up to work? Job retention is always critical. Job attraction's always critical. How do we do that when there's a status of being, more money to be off in some capacity? So it's a job I love. It's a facet that we truly love and have the support of our elected officials here. So we're just hoping for some advancement in some of the progressions as we come out of COVID. These businesses suffered so much through 2020 to pop into 2021, and that tsunami is still facing them, the private sector. When is enough is enough. So thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. There's just a couple other points I'd like to make, and then we'll get to questions. First of all, 23 other states have already signaled that they will be opting out of the extra $300 unemployment. Now, those are states that we are going to be competing with to keep our businesses here and to keep those families here. Also, something that might be a little bit of an eye-opener. The Buffalo Niagara Partnership just did a survey of their member organizations. 80% of them said that the economic conditions in Western New York are worse now than they were a year ago. Now think about that. The year ago was the height of the pandemic. We didn't know what was going to be happening next. We were afraid for our lives, literally. But yet now, a year later, they think it's worse than it was a year ago. That speaks volumes as to what the government has done to artificially depress our economy. The second thing they said, and this is something that's very concerning to me as an elected official, 50% of those businesses said if they could move, they would leave New York State. 50% of the members of the Buffalo-Niagara Partnership said that they would leave New York State if they could. That should concern every single person in this state, every single elected official. I will also point out that, as I mentioned before, this is about lifting people up. This is about ensuring that people can have a long-term, sustainable life. We want families to be proud of what they do, not to sit at home and wonder when the checks are going to stop coming. And that's what's going to happen. And my biggest concern, my biggest fear is when that day does come, are there going to be jobs for those people? Are they going to be able to feed their families? Or are they going to do like other people and they're pull up stakes and move to another state? This is about the families of New York State and the people that rely on the businesses that we're talking about to ensure that they can have a quality life, that they can send their kids to school, that they can buy the things that they need. That's why we have to do this now. We have to stop enabling and start supporting. So with that, we'll take some questions.
How likely is this to actually go through? How much support do you have?
Well, we have several bills that have bipartisan support. The biggest obstacle we have right now is the fact that we are toward the end of session, and that in June 10th we will no longer, be in session. That being said, we've certainly come back like we did last year to bring about emergency resolutions to address things that are emergent problems within the state. So I'm hopeful that we can gather enough steam with this that we can indeed, if not get it on the agenda before the end of session, hopefully come back. But the bottom line is I don't think that September is going to be the end for this. I mean, I think this is just another extension. I do believe that the Biden administration it will likely extend this because this was the plan all along, right? This is about some kind of a permanent guaranteed income for folks. The pandemic is just an excuse to advance that agenda. So I'm concerned that we're going to be suffering from this for a long time, and it's going to do permanent multi-generational damage to our state and our nation. Yeah, it's pretty simple, really. We're just opting out of the extra $300 federal stimulus. Now, keep in mind that we already have extended unemployment benefits to 46 weeks. That's almost a year. You're still going to be able to collect unemployment for almost a year. You're just not going to be making so much that's disincentivizing you to go out and get a job. Now, just to do the simple math and the economics here, the average unemployment benefit, there we go. I guess the tape isn't holding in the sun, so it's all right. All right. It's all good? All right. The average unemployment benefit in New York State is $320 a week. Now, again, no taxes are taken out of that. Now you add the $300 in from the federal. That's $620 a week. No taxes taken out. This is all about cash flow for people, right? So when you add that all up, you'd have to make more than $40,000 a year to make more working than on unemployment. Now, that's a disincentive to people, but also here in this region, in Chautauqua County, where I'm from, that's above the average salary that people are making that are working now. So what we're saying to someone who's making $38,000 a year is you're a sucker for working. Why don't you go on unemployment? Because unfortunately in New York State, nobody's checking. Anybody, literally anybody, can collect unemployment benefits for any reason. New York State has the longest list of reasons why you can collect unemployment. And there is no one verifying it. You have to self-attest, essentially, that I can't work for whatever reason. And one of the reasons that is still out there is I fear catching COVID. These people working behind the bar, you people, if you're afraid of catching COVID, we've got vaccines, and we've got plenty of things that you can do that don't require you to be in the public. But these folks are working hard. I don't want to say to somebody working behind that bar on an 85-degree sunny day that you're better off staying at home and not working. And that's what this legislation is intended to do, is to continue to motivate people to do the right thing.
In terms of sponsorship for this piece of legislation,
Yeah. You know, at this point, no one's officially signed on. We actually are calling out all of my fellow senators, Democrats and Republicans, to sign on to this bill. I think it's critically important. Like I said, I'd like to see this move through quickly, even if it's an emergency committee meeting or an emergency session, to get it done. So we're going to continue to push to get more folks signed on to this.
Because the political reality suggests that this all is under legislation. So what are the consequences if it does?
I've been an underdog my whole life, so I can tell you that I'm just going to continue to push hard. When I was told that I wasn't going to pass any bills as a Republican member, and I'm proud to say I passed the first statewide bill, the first Republican to pass a statewide bill with the Nourish New York program months ago, because I was able to reach across to people on the other sides of the aisle to explain to them why that program was critically important, not just to the farmers in my district, but to every food bank. If it was in Corona, Queens, where I visited and walked around with Catalina Cruz, a Democratic member of the Assembly, or to some of the farthest reaches of our state. We have to understand that we are all in this together, and I'm hoping that every single member of the Senate and the Assembly is hearing the same things I'm hearing from businesses, and they're going to realize that something needs to be done. Sure, absolutely.
But we were here earlier, we saw a lot of folks sitting outside. I assume they want to be outside because it's outside, but it's nice. Outside nice is not often the rest of the world.
Right.
But the inside's everything. If you were fully staffed, would we see people in there?
Not this month. So when the beer garden's open, it's all beer garden. If it rains, we're all inside. Weekends, normally the first room will be full, and then we'll usually have an event upstairs. The original part of the building on Saturdays is always full. So it just happens this time of year. If it's in July right now, everything would be full. So.
In regards to the press release, you stated that they're revising downward what you're doing. Can you ballpark that?
Revising downward for what? Excuse me?
According to the press release,
Your projections.
unless things improve, we're going to have to adjust our expectations for the summer season down.
Right. So we do have a new operation that started last November. It was one of our new locations here in town. And, we might have to just cut that off and keep it closed for the summer, because when we opened it in November, it was a new bottle shop taqueria. It's a nice new spot right on Main Street. And we had used our crew from Chautauqua to run it all for the season. And since November, we haven't been able to establish a new team to take that on, right? So the plan was to have an existing current team open it and run it and train, but we haven't had any new blood to come in. So that just might be the one we got to cut off to keep the two running better. Well, less revenue, yeah, I mean, sure. It's not always about revenue. It's also about, keeping the key people growing. One of the reasons why we keep growing is that any business has to keep growing and feeding. I call it feeding the beast, really, because you have to have these increased revenue to keep key staff every year, because I'm sure, like everybody, you want your 5, 6, 12% bump a year, right? So revenue has to increase 5, 6, 12% a year revenue bump to keep it going. And so that's why we keep growing. We have to keep key people interested in staying here in this county, Chautauqua County, our sales team that's out there throughout all the state. And there's where, you kind of get in a conundrum, right? Because then you start losing people to larger companies, right? So you got to keep growing. So yes, so that would be the one I'm talking about. And yeah.
Listeners argument had maybe particularly different political strategies. So say, well, just then the problem.
I can address that.
Oh, well, listen, I've always prized myself in paying the most in this town. We opened up 26 years ago. And other than Dean and myself, we offer 401k, healthcare from the get-go before ACA even existed. And so I'm proud of the fact that we've always offered those things. So that stuff has been regulated and put on other people. We've already ahead of that curve. So I'm just at a point where, you just want, it's also a conundrum between, being in New York State, upstate New York too. I mean, COVID's caused a big issue. It's just exacerbated a declining population to begin with. Okay? Yeah, so, and we always try to keep our kids here. I have 3 daughters, right? I would love to keep my 3 daughters here. Reality says I don't think they're going to stay here. Right? Oh, yeah, it tripled on us, right? Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but I know it tripled. So it went from like 318 to 6 or high 6s to 7s, right?
Yep.
And that was completely unexpected. My accountant, who's never had a claim in 30 years, his rate tripled also. He's an accountant. So, that kicker on the back end, we knew it was coming. Like, how else are they going to pay for this, right? We're going to end up paying for it in the back end somehow with some sort of a crazy assessment, some sort of, it comes from someplace. I mean, the $50 billion that Biden gave the state, is that correct? $50 billion?
Yeah.
Has that even been activated?
Most of it, no.
Yeah. So, anyhow, any other questions? Like I said, I've been a very benevolent employer. At least I think I have been. And I really strive to create the best workforce that I can, within reason. And my crew will say that, meaning they'll sometimes argue against expenditures, CapEx, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, well, guys, I still have to leave money over on the side here for all these extra things. But growth, you have to keep growing at a certain level because you lose talent.
You're modest, too, with about a $6.5 million in the village of Little Valley, where he took over a 40,000 square foot building, put in high-tech manufacturing, where, who else would do that? Who else would invest in it? It's people like that.
Yeah, we're installing a can line this week, and if you want, that's another good tour in itself. So, well, thanks, everyone. Sure.
I just want to address this unemployment insurance issue because Peter touched on it. I think it's an important one.
Yeah.
Most other states, or many other states, first of all, nobody did what New York did when it came to the availability of unemployment. We helped people every single day. My office, Tom's office, every senator that I know, because of the glut of unemployment that happened all at once. But the side effect, the impact of that, is that it cratered our unemployment insurance fund in New York State. And as Peter brought up, and what we did, I actually introduced a bill last March because I knew this was going to happen. A year ago, March, at the beginning of the pandemic, saying we need to hold harmless the businesses when it comes to the unemployment insurance. So my bill got set aside. The Democrats introduced a bill that held the experience rating, but it didn't hold the rate. So New York State jacked up the rate. And as Peter said, people that never laid off a single employee during the entire pandemic are having unemployment insurance bills double and triple. The unemployment insurance fund is funded by businesses, largely small businesses. And what did we do with our federal stimulus money? We should have put that federal stimulus money into that unemployment insurance fund to stop this from happening. So now,
that's what I thought it was for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the point he was getting to. We have all this money. So you can't hire anybody. Your unemployment insurance is going to double or triple. We have no idea what's going to happen next as far as the issues that we have with our workforce development. Taxes are continuing to go up. New York State is becoming impossible to do business in. And that is very scary for us. And this is just one more example. The governor thinks he can hide behind these platitudes that we've done this and we've done that. Meanwhile, you are killing business. We are passing bills every single day in the Senate and the Assembly that are killing business one way or another. We have huge payoffs to special interests that are harming our businesses. And we're not doing anything to support them, literally nothing. And that is something that needs to change if we expect to have the revenue that we need to keep government going in New York State. So, yes. All right. Any last questions? We good? All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Very well.